Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial for absolute beginners. We are drawing with a black charcoal, and should you be drawing on colored paper, a white charcoal. And also I will be using my Koh-i-Noor hardwood pencil eraser and a brush. Now this is a study on colored paper, and this is one on plain white sketching paper. And what you see happening is me drawing an apple and a pear. And you can see the light coming through, and I will be in search for those shadows and to get some convincing apple and pear 3D dimension. And of course the real-time tutorial can be found on my Patreon page, along with all my prints and extra tips. Now let's start drawing. Here you can see a little cube, and I want my apple to fit inside that cube. To explain even better, I'm also drawing in a pear just behind that apple. Now here you can see the cross of my little square. And that little twig that is on that apple is in the deepest point of the apple. And then from that deepest point, you have to think round. What I also draw in immediately are the lines for the shadows that are going to be on that table. And this is the little twig that is coming out of the apple, which has hang from the tree, and that's also the deepest point in that apple. Now you can see rounded lines on the apple, but to start I will just give the whole of the apple a little bit of color, black in this case. And what you see is that I'm holding my pencil as flat as possible. I always make a long point, and I do this with a knife, and I sharpen that pencil so I can use it as flat as I can, just to give some shade and color to the object that I'm drawing. Now this is a very quick sketch, and it's very simple and easy to do, but it will learn you a lot about how the apple is behaving and how the shadows are behaving. Here I'm drawing in that shadow underneath that apple, and the shadow nearest to the apple and underneath the apple is darker than as it's fading away. Also the front of the apple, of course, is a little bit darker, but I leave open a little line of some lighter gray between the shadow and the apple itself. Now the pear is a little bit further away, but also this object I give some tone, and from that pear a little twig is coming too, maybe somewhat longer, well, don't be too worried about the shapes, because a pear and an apple are never perfectly rounded. So just keep your sketch as loose as possible. Now here the pear is appearing, and also that pear has a little shadow, and that's casted on the surface. We will draw that in too, and I thought it would be nice to have a little bit of the shape of the pear and also the little twig on top, just to make the drawing a little bit more exciting. Now once you've colored in your objects, then just put in some little helper lines, and there's a reason for this. I do it like so, and then take your broad brush, make sure it's clean, and then rub the pigments of the charcoal into the paper. I also put a little bit of pigments around my surface, and I rub that in too. Now it's time for the magic. And here you see my pencil eraser in action. And I use that to light up that piece of surface that my objects are laying on. Instantly you get that feel of like it's kind of a painting actually. And here you can see the light that is peeping just through the apple and the pear. Now you've got some really convincing 3D effect going. Now once you have this, it's time to put in a little bit of structure in, for instance, that apple that is in front of us. So I'm using again my pencil eraser to get a little bit of structure going on. Now some apples are high, some are flat, some are wobbly. So don't concern yourself too much with the shape, but just concentrate on those shadows that are going on. For the pear that is a little bit farther away from us, I also use my pencil eraser to get some light on it. Now a pear is less shiny, so I do not have to concern myself too much with all kinds of highlights there. And I want to be the apple to be more in front of us than the pear is, so the pear I leave a little bit more blurry, while here in the apple I put in some extra detail. I also put a little bit of extra dark shadow underneath that apple. This will make it pop out even more. And I will do that too with the pear a little bit. And here just on the side of the pear so that the apple comes more in front. So just play around with it. See how dark you can go in there. And slowly build up your shadows. I'll add a little bit more dark contrast into that apple to make it a little bit more shiny. Not all apples are shiny, of course, but I do want to keep that rounded feel. Now, here is another item that you can bring out too. Oh wait, I will just first make that white surface a little bit whiter here. And I also use that flat brush to get rid of those rubbles from erasing. And well, that gives that shiny effect. Oh yeah, and this is what I wanted to tell you. This is a blender stick. And with a blender stick, you can ease out those shadows. And you get a different structure between what is shadow and what are the objects. So that can be a very helpful medium too. Well, this is a very, very quick and very easy study to do, so I hope you will give this a try and learn about your shadows. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out my Patreon page for extra tips, and I will see you again next Friday.